The Princes of Liechtenstein. The Liechtenstein family was a royal family in Austria first mentioned in 1136. They were fairly wealthy, owned many castles in Austria, Moravia, and Bohemia, and were advisors to the Habsburgs for a very long time. They wished to have more power, though, as many royal families do, and to have a seat on the imperial diet. But to do so they had to own free imperial land under no one else but the emperor himself, and be princes, which the men became in 1608. After being elevated to princely status, the family started to search for land which they could gain control over. Vaduz and Schellenberg. At the same time, what is now the nation of Liechtenstein was the medieval counties of Schellenberg and Vaduz. I can't find when Schellenberg was created, though Vaduz was created in the 1300s, so I assume they both were created around the same time. Both counties switched hands repeatedly between 1416 and 1613 until they fell into the hands of the Hohenems family, who had a poor rule. Because during their reign there were several witch trials in the counties, the plague hit multiple times, and the 30 Years' War ravaged them even more. Because of all of this, the Hohenems were in bad debt and needed a way out. So, when one of the Liechtenstein princes came to them and offered to buy the two counties, the Hohenems just couldn't refuse. The Principality of Liechtenstein and two confederations. The Liechtenstein princes bought Schellenberg in 1699 and Vaduz in 1712. A few years later, in 1719, the Holy Roman Emperor united them both, creating the Imperial Principality of Liechtenstein, naming the principality after the family, giving them more prestige and a seat on the imperial diet. For most of the principality's history was very poor, underpopulated, had a largely agricultural economy, and the princes didn't live there. When the Napoleonic Wars started, Liechtenstein was gobbled up by the French and made a part of the Confederation of the Rhine, a confederation of mostly small states located sort of around the Rhine, though not entirely. During her years of being in the Confederation between 1608 and 1813, Bavaria wanted to have some of her land, and it seemed there was some quarrel over this. When the Congress of Vienna was held to decide the end of the Napoleonic Wars, Liechtenstein represented herself, helping to prove her sovereignty, which she always had a problem with, and she decided to join the new German Confederation, becoming one of the 39 founding members. During her 51 years of being in the Confederation, she adopted two constitutions, joined a customs union with Austria, and brought up a very powerful and strong army by conditions of the Confederation. A very profound army of 80 men. Oh my gosh, wow. This army never saw action though, but it did guard a mountain in Italy for the Austrians during the Austro-Prussian War. Once that war ended, and the Confederation was dissolved, she declared neutrality for the future and disbanded her army, which she didn't want to have in the first place. From the World Wars to today. Even though Liechtenstein was neutral during the First World War, she faced a lot of trouble during it, since she was so close to Austria both politically, economically, and socially. She suffered a famine and near economic collapse, and again, her sovereignty was questioned by the French. But Liechtenstein survived the First World War, even though it was hard for her. Since the Austro-Hungarian Empire had fallen apart and her name put a sour taste in the West Europeans' mouth, Liechtenstein decided not to be besties with them anymore, and decided to be besties with her only other neighbor, Switzerland, in the early 1920s. During when she also adopted a democratic constitution, the Swiss franc, and joined a customs union with Switzerland. There was worry in Liechtenstein that they would fall to the Nazis just before the Second World War started, since nationalistic movements
and sympathy for the Nazis grew.
And after Prince Franz I abdicated, a new prince brought Nazi sympathizers into the parliament. Thankfully though, the Nazis never took power, not the internal or external ones. I don't have a definitive reason why, but in my opinion it was probably because of how small Liechtenstein was, and that it wasn't a very strategically important region for the German war effort at the time. But still, Liechtenstein survived a world war yet again. Post-World War II to modern times. After the Second World War ended, things started to go very well for Liechtenstein. Her economy and population grew rapidly, and her relations with Switzerland became even closer. In modern times, Liechtenstein seems to be very well off, being extremely wealthy, producing more jobs than they have a population for, and making very high-quality products that are sold internationally. And it seems they have overall good relations in Europe, except for with Czechia. My thoughts and a recap. To recap everything in simple terms, Liechtenstein exists because a royal family wanted more power, and is the only remnant of the Holy Roman Empire that still exists, as long as you don't count Luxembourg or Austria, which I don't in this sense, because they're not principalities. And like, come on, Liechtenstein is a little baby-sized nation, little baby, just like the old Holy Roman Empire states. I really enjoyed researching this video and the other two that will go along with this, so I hope you also enjoyed it, and that you like, comment, and subscribe, and that you have a good day. Goodbye.